everyone, welcome back to Pommy and All's. Hope we're all doing really well this Wednesday. It's time for the VFL wrap. I've got a very special guest, but before we introduce him, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe. It really helps the channel out. We're absolutely KOing subs. I can't thank you enough. You can become a member of the channel. Link is in the description. You all need to click that if you're iOS. We do wonderful things like sponsor a gentleman we're going to be talking about today, Dom McCoy. We've got a real nice community here, all good boys and girls. And if you are a returning Pommy and also good day to you. It's great to have you back. Thank you very much for joining me. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So as promised, I'm joined by a legend in Big Paolo. Paolo was doing the commentary. How are you going, Paolo?
I'm very well, Pommy, and I'm in esteemed company with you, mate. So looking forward to doing this this big VFL wrap with you, mate.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure having you on board. Debutant to Pominol's channel as well. We finally got you across.
It's been a few years in the making, but finally signed the dotted lines.
Well, I mean, obviously, everyone will have enjoyed your call at home. It was, first of all, an amazing call as well. A bit of banter in there as well, some WWE references. We had it all.
Well, I've got to excite the public, mate. As much as you've got to be informative and understand sort of what you're calling and what's happening in the game, you've also got to be entertaining as well. So, not that it was tough doing it one out, but it's the first time I'd ever really called live on my own. So it was a really fun and joyful experience, and I think getting the Twitter feed involved as well just added another layer to the call, which was exciting too. So yeah, ticked off the Gold Coast junket, and away we go.
Mate, it was an amazing call and really interactive. And obviously, they had a huge win, didn't they? The VFL side, quite comprehensive in the end. While you were calling the ground, what really stood out for you?
I think just how clean they've been, and I think just the ease at which they score, and have been scoring throughout the first three rounds has really stood out. I think in the last couple of years with our VFL boys, I think scoring and getting out the back and scoring easy goals without having to, work your backside off for it. I mean, they're always going to be working hard to score goals, but I think this year they just look much more efficient going forward of centre. And defensively, they look so much better as a unit. And I think the short, sharp handball game that we've seen, to great success in the first three rounds in the AFL season has really come to the fore for the VFL boys. And it's the second time they've cracked the ton, 113, 17, 11, 113. The Suns were quite inaccurate, though. They kicked 19 behinds, but a lot of their shots were quite tough, which is sort of, I think it's a testament to the team defence that they've implemented down at VFL level 2. And the one thing I've noticed as well is that, Vossi has really put a price on the contest and the ability to win the ball from stoppage, and the boys have done that, to great effect. And I think the one thing again that really stood out for me was that the last quarter against the Suns was our strongest quarter, and we didn't have two of our best ball. We didn't have two of our prime on ballers. Will Hayes missed the whole match with gastro, and then Paddy Dow was obviously taken out to be listed as an emergency in the AFL team, and it was probably the strongest they'd performed. So I think that's a testament to how well the structure is setting up, the midfield as well as a team defence.
I think it's one thing that Vossi really will be happy with, that there's a total buy-in, isn't there, from forward to behind the ball. And I really enjoy as well, you'll notice when we get to the heat map stages, that they're heavy in the rotations as well. Nunes went the opposite flank for much of the game and then floated on the ball, which is a good sign for the senior club that these players are getting a lot of time in different areas of the grounds as well.
Yeah, and I think the beauty about a player like with Jack Nunes too, I love the fact that he's sort of owning his wing and owning his own space as well. And he's played I think maybe the knock on him at times, I don't know if I wouldn't say he's a selfish footballer, but he's really started to become selfless in his role as a wingman down at VFL level. There are a few times where, and I think Daniel O'Keefe also mentioned this in the VFL player review, that he could have had a shot for goal, but rather than doing so, he freed up a teammate in a better position. So I know it's such a simple way of looking at it, but those little things there, I think, are going to go a long way to building a strong team connection between all players, AFL and VFL listed. And I think you need that bond between everybody, Pommy. It can't just be, AFL boys are with the AFL boys and VFL boys are with the VFL boys. It's all got to be aligned. And that's where you were talking about there's a total buy-in. And I think we can see that. I know it's a small sample size, but I think we've seen that in the first 3 rounds. And mate, the boys are on top of the ladder. They're flying at the moment.
Mate, they're doing very well. I think the final one point I want to touch on, and we'll cover it a bit more in the heat map section, is you can actually see which these senior players are mirroring the AFL players' roles. So, one of the big takeouts for me was Sam Philp. He really was that Corey Durden player. You saw him aggressive in the ball when the ball hit the deck, but then suddenly he was in defensive 50, laying hard tackles and winning the ball back. You're really seeing that role that Voss keeps saying, rolls. It's appearing in the VFL.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was the first thing I looked at when you sent the heat maps through. I checked Sam Phillips and I noticed that there were a handful of dots and spots where he popped up in the defensive half, which is something that I think it's something that you can utilize, especially that type of speed. And I mean, it's all well and good to be using your speed, and fleet-footedness, forward of centre. But if you can also do it behind the ball as well, which, as you've said, and we've seen it countless times, you see like Durden popping up, in the back pocket, and you're like, hang on, wait, what's he doing there? It's because he's following his man all the way up the field. So, if that's part of the team defence buy-in, they're clearly doing it. So, and I thought his game was fantastic, Sam Philp. I thought he was lively up forward, and he took his goals well. And even when he did, I think his third goal, he absolutely fluffed the kick, but it still went through. So everything he's doing at the moment, even if it is bad, he's still hitting the scoreboard.
It was interesting because just before he kicked his third, he missed quite an easy one, didn't he? And then he managed to, I don't know what he did, but it somehow went through, didn't it? So
I think I said it was a sand wedge to the top of the green. Like it just made it went. It was a beautiful up and down, Cameron Smith style.
It was easy. But we'll get onto the heat maps, and I reckon the first guy we're going to pick on, Paddy Dow, you would say he's as close as a lock, barring COVID, to play, isn't he?
I would say so. Yeah, his VFL form has been exemplary this year, and we've said it too. And I think the one thing you could not excuse someone for, but a player of his, I say caliber in inverted commas, a player who we picked up with such a high draft pick. I think he could have gone down to the reserves and stunk it up and just put his feet up and said, stuff this. My time at the club's done. I've been here for 5-6 years now, and I still can't crack it into the senior squad. But he has gone back there, and he's really led by example. I think he's averaging upwards of 30 touches a game. He's hitting the scoreboard as well, which is something that is really starting to develop into his game too, which is really exciting. And what I've really liked about him as well is that and you mentioned it too, is that he's starting to bully opponents down at reserves level, and hopefully he can translate that into AFL form. But I think the beauty about him is that we knew, and this is just part of football, he was always going to get his chance, and now he gets his chance when he's in fantastic ball-winning form. And I don't think he could hit the AFL side in any better form, to be honest.
Well, I mean, you never want an injury, particularly to Cripps.
Well, no, of course.
It's probably come at the perfect time for him because he's going to be playing in the guts. He's going to be playing this role that he's played in the VFL. And it's probably the perfect opportunity because so far this season, when we have had an injury or an out, that person coming in has really caused the question of how do you drop him? So this could be the opportunity for Dow to come in, and next week we're like, well, we've got to drop someone. Cripps is back. Who?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, look, my take on it is that it could almost be last chance saloon for Paddy with regards to taking his opportunity in the side, because his VFL form almost can't get any better, really, when you think about it. And he's going to hit this AFL team with a head full of of steam. So, as I said, I just hope it translates into AFL form. We've seen what he's capable of. We saw in the Fremantle game last year, he was capable of tearing apart a game in, inside 2 quarters. And let's hope he can do that for a prolonged period of time.
I think what's interesting about this heat map as well, I want everyone to look at the D50 possessions. One thing I've noticed about Dow is he's kind of playing for a large part of that game. He did that Kennedy role where he would go at the back of the stoppage and look to make the pass. And I actually was watching him and thought, our issue at the moment is transition. And he's a key cornerstone in the VFL's ability to transition the ball from behind centre. There's many times some of them possessions are handballs or short kicks, and he's blazing ahead of the runner to get to the next kick. And that turned me on a little bit. I thought this could be a big in the AFL if he can do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's his strength. His strength is the ability to burst away from stoppage. And I think training that into him, so when he is bursting away from stoppage, rather than just fully blazing away by foot and just saying, oh, I just need to gain territory, just go out, burst your way out the stoppage, but then take that half a second to maybe look inside for the short, sharp handball or look inside for that short, sharp kick. And I've seen him purposefully do that throughout the first couple of rounds he's played. So it's a sign of him maturing as well, I think, and having some trust in his teammates around him. And his teammates having trust in him to say, okay, well, I know he's going to burst away from the stoppage, so I'm going to give him support.
Well, he's looked really good. He's really looked like a leader as well. That's one thing that stood out to me. And I think this AFL promotion is going to go one or two ways. It's either Nick Graham or Jack Graham.
Spot on. Exactly right. It's a perfect, like he's way better than VFL level. We know that. Now it's just a matter of him believing in himself and the club sort of trying to facilitate his strengths when he steps into the senior side.
And the next guy we're going to pick on, who I reckon is another shoe-in to play senior footy, the miracle man himself. It's hard to believe this guy was out with syndesmosis only a couple of weeks ago. Liam Stocker, this was one hell of a game, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yeah. I will preface it by saying his 35 disposals, look, a lot of those were, I think half of those were kick-ins. But look, regardless of that, even away from that, his influence on the contest was second to none, really. And he's such an assured head with ball in hand down back as well. And his ability to be able to break the lines with those aggressive, dangerous kicks inside is something that is a real standout at VFL level, and it's something that we're going to really need to utilise at AFL level as well. And I think the one thing that he's really worked on his game too, and I think it was one thing that we're all sort of worried about, is his not defensive application, but just his defensive ability one-on-one, but his ability to read the ball in flight, and his courage as well, going back with the flight, and he's not really worried about what's around him, or what's going to hit him or what's going to bump him. I love him, absolutely love him, and I'd be surprised if he wasn't playing AFL this week, to be honest.
Well, I mean, he lived off that half-back flank and the back pocket for large parts. He spent most of his time on a very famous guy for Cowton fans, Alex Sexton. And he absolutely battered Sexton. Like, I started to feel sorry for Sexton in about the third quarter, because every time the ball went to ground and you thought, this is where Sexton goes to work, he either got a shoulder in the face from Stocker, or Stocker was there first. And he didn't get the tackle numbers, but I don't think that's fair. Stocker, for me, I was watching it and thinking, if I was Voss, he's Plowman's replacement. He can play on that awkward-sized blokes, but his ball use, you've got to remember, 12 of them were kick-ins. 23 touches then, if you just take away the kick-ins. 23 touches for a back pocket, half back flank. You're laughing, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I think he has the defensive capabilities of a guy like Lachie Plowman, if not better defensive capabilities. And he's also got the ability to go out and, as you said, he can win his own football, which is something that a guy like Plowman just doesn't do and can't do and never will be able to do. So And I think Stocker's game or the way we played was that rundown tackle that he laid on Sexton right on the goal line. Sexton still got the goal, but I think that's symbolic of what Liam Stocker is. His opponent might have the upper hand on him, but he's going to be doing, near done everything to be able to stop his opponent from winning the contest, which is, can you teach that? Probably not. I think that's just got to be ingrained in you from a junior all the way through. But I think if you go back and watch his highlights, that he almost saved a certain goal on the line. It ended up being a goal, but just his sheer desperation, I think, is going to have, his coaches and even us sort of up and about for what's to come this year.
Well, he had 3 efforts on that as well, didn't he? He stopped 3 clear goals in a row, basically, in that passage of play, and he was put in a horrible position from the ball into him. So that is an exciting thing. And like you say, his ability to win the ball, I think, is a real exciting thing for us.
Yeah. I think that's a facet of the game as a defender you need to have, Pommy. If you can't defend and rebound at the same time, well, you're effectively obsolete now in this type of in the type of climate we are with AFL at the moment. I mean, like guys like Simon Prestigiacomo retired over 10 years ago, and the clubs and AFL has moved on from the pure lockdown defender. So a guy like Stocker is going to come into the team, and he's going to be your perfect replacement, I think, for a guy like Plowman, really.
Mate, spot on. I think he's primed. And the next guy that I don't think has got much write-up recently, number 17, Brodie Kemp. And I really have enjoyed, I might be the only Carlton fan in the world, I've enjoyed his forward time. And I was watching him this week, and he plays that Jack Martin role. And I was watching him and thinking, I dropped Martin for this guy because I think he's always involved, which is, I think, the question mark on Jack. He's bringing it to ground. He's fighting. He's working both ends hard. And I was watching his game and thinking, if you had a goal here or 2 goals, I'd be petitioning to get you in the side tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I think the one thing I really liked about he sort of had a little bit of a slow start to the VFL season, but he worked his way into this game fantastically well. And the one thing I really liked was his ability to hit up at the ball carrier and find space on the lead and get separation from his opponent too. I think he had, what do you have here? What have we written down? 19 disposals, 4 marks as well. And I think he's only just developing into this forward half role, if that makes sense, because we saw last year he was deployed as a backman, and this year through the preseason he's been deployed as a forward. So he's obviously still learning the craft and getting it down pat. But I really like what I saw over the weekend, and I think he had a few goal assists as well, which is great. So obviously not able to hit the scoreboard, but if he continues to play the way he did and hit up at the ball carrier and be a dangerous option forward of centre, the scores are going to come. And I would honestly prefer to play someone younger and of his talent over a guy like Jack Martin, because Martin's sort of getting towards that age where I think he's obviously hit his ceiling, whereas we don't know what the ceiling is with a guy like Brodie Kemp. And he's going to be young, he's going to be exuberant, he's going to be vibrant around the group too. So it could be a case of out with the old and in with the new with regards to Kemp. So as I said, I would not be against him playing a forward role.
I think one of the things I've noticed about the VFL is their ability to transition, particularly from the second quarter. And what he brings as well is people forget from juniors, he's got an absolute rifle of a peg. That mark he took just behind centre, that ended up inside 50. The one that he took on the wing as well, that just ended up outside the goal square. And we know Voss likes to go down that channel, and sometimes that's where that shallow entry comes in. When this guy kicks it, it stays kicked.
Yeah, and I think he could also be, I mean, we don't know the severity of Pitt's injury just yet. We're assuming it's only a minor thing, but I think the beauty about him coming in is that he can also play, like if we need to pluck Jack and get him out from that half forward role that he's been so good with in the last, in the first 3 weeks, if he has to go and pinch it in the ruck, I think you can get a guy like Kemp in and put him into that role, because we've seen his ability to hit up, as I said before, across that half forward line. And I think we really lacked that against the Gold Coast at AFL level, someone rolling up along the wings and providing a short outlet to go to, which is exactly what Jack had been doing the first 3 weeks. So Jack Martin did none of that against the Gold Coast at AFL level, which was really disappointing. I think a guy like Kemp can come in and do that if they have to move, the Silvani cog into the ruck and then replace someone, in that high half forward role. But the beauty about it, we've got the options, which is great.
Yeah, and obviously a couple more weeks, few goals. I reckon he's banging that door down hard.
Correct. Spot on. I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
And the next guy we got is a personal favourite of mine. And this guy, I think, is probably the most improved in the VFL, Luke Parks. Like, I think you picked it up on the commentary, and I think you nailed it. His kicking and his ability to see,
right,
to keep the ball going and hit targets, but also the fact that he never gets beaten. He went on Sam Day for large parts, and Day only got off the chain when Dom Okoye got isolated with him. I thought Parks towelled Day up.
Yeah, he's a real he's so courageous as well, and he reads the ball in the air really well too. And when he puts in a spoil, mate, that ball stays spoiled. I'll give you the tip. But as you said, the one thing for me that just stood out completely is his disposal. Like, mate, he's chewing off those dangerous kicks, on that 45-degree angle and hitting them too. And mate, absolutely no reason he couldn't come into the. I think if they wanted to go with someone a little bit more defensive minded for Plowman, Parks is your guy. If they wanted to go for someone as that gun rebounder and that 50 to 55 meter player, then they would go with Stocker. But I wouldn't be too perturbed either way. I think Parks I thought it was fantastic on the weekend.
I think his third quarter as well, he had 4 of his 8 marks and they were all intercepts. And I started to get, it's a big call, but it reminded me of Liam Jones. The fact he just would peel off his man and the key forward is like, where the hell are you going? And he takes it at the top of the apex, straight onto the boot, out into half back flank. The ball's gone, counter transitioning. He's really got that confidence, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. That's the big word, the C word, confidence. And that's exactly what he's been, what's been instilled in his game. And now he's, as you said, he's developing into what we've seen is a defender who can not just lock down and take those intercept marks, but rebound too. And that's, as we said, it's a massive facet of the modern game.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. And the next guy who's going to be putting a lot of pressure, I think, Jack Nunes. He's the guy that we want to be doing this, putting the pressure on. And I nickname him COVID because he's everywhere, but you don't notice him. And this heat map is COVID, isn't it? I mean, he is everywhere, isn't he? He is everywhere.
He completely owned his wings and the halfback and the half forward roles as well. And, wherever the ball was along the outer side or near the broadcast side, he was. And, he provided great coverage defensively, but he also provided a great outlet when we were swinging on transition and going forward of center. So, mate, he's another player too, like him, and I know we'll get to him quickly, but Matt Cottrell as well. Those two have really begun to own the wings at VFL level too, and it's nice to see as well because I think this wing position is really, really up for grabs. So, look, a guy like Jack Nunes, with all the AFL experience he has, should be doing what he is doing at the moment in VFL level, and he's probably had a career best at VFL level, I think, for us this season, and he's really banging down the door at the moment. So, look, as you said, his ability to cover the ground and own his wing has been second to none as well. So, absolutely no knock on him.
What I'm loving about him is he's setting that bar, isn't he? He's basically saying to those guys who are playing that role in the AFL, mate, I'm here. Like, you've got to back up it week on week because I ain't falling. So I love having this type of player in the VFL because he's literally always keeping you honest.
Yeah, exactly. And as we said, his experience too. And we know like that that wing position, it's up for grabs too. And I think also as well, what I've really liked from him is that he's very vocal as well down at that level too, which is a good thing too. I like to hear that. I think the last couple of years, what I noticed was that a few boys down there that were just a little bit, they were introverts, or a little bit quiet. I think him going down there and saying, sort of trying to lift the standard up as well, and lift his own standard too, has been beneficial for his game and the team as a whole.
Mate, spot on. I think they're the players we want in the VFL, aren't they?
Correct.
Because he's a consummate professional. So
Correct.
these young kids, they know what it takes, what standard is expected.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, look, he's not going to be a shoe-in for the 22 every week. We know that. But he's the squad player we need. He's that sort of stopgap player we need for the wing. And he's perfect for it.
Mate, spot on. And the next guy who everyone I think at Carlton will be excited about, Sam Philp. He was very lively, wasn't he?
Yeah, loved his game. Really loved his game. Very lively in front of goal. Took his goals really well. Probably could have had a handful more, but mate, he was fantastic. I got pretty excited with him on the call. He's just a class ball user and finisher as well. And I think he's come on leaps and bounds from last year. We know last year he had sort of did he have a hip and I know he had a groin. He had a groin niggle, which can be a real shocker for the kids coming through. But he seems to have shaken that off. And he's come on, as I said, he's come on leaps and bounds. And I mean, there was talk as well. He played in that St Kilda game in the preseason. There was talk that he was going to potentially take up a round one spot. He's definitely close. And look, if they decide that maybe a guy like Martin or maybe Owens potentially might need a stint in the seconds, he is a viable replacement.
Oh, what impresses me about him from his junior years to now is the work he's done on his engine, and it's the ability to sustain that breakaway pace. He's really got the level base of fitness now, but he doesn't get any slower, which has really impressed me. In the fourth quarter, some of them little breaks away, he maintains that high level of speed as well, which is dangerous in the AFL when you're tired.
Yeah, exactly. And you spoke about endurance as well, and him improving that facet of his game. And you look at the heat map, and he's ripping back as well, not just ripping forward and trying to get out the back and provide an option, for the talls when the ball comes to ground, but he's also providing, backup when the ball is in defensive 50. So, for him to be able to cover both ends of the ground when he needs to, that's another sign of his development, another feather in his cap.
Mate, someone to watch out for as well. I think 2 or 3 weeks, just get that fitness levels back. He could be a shoe-in. Definitely,
I agree, especially in that small forward role. It's a role that's been up for grabs, I think, in the preseason. And as we said, if a guy like Owens is not really bringing the heat, even Dirter for that matter, if he needs a stint in the seconds too, or he needs a break, Phil could come up and do the job based on what we've seen in that game against the Suns.
Mate, couldn't agree more. And the next guy who's probably miles away from AFL football, but I do love him, Big Dom Akoi. He really impressed me this week because of the levels of improvement I'm seeing, particularly this week on one-on-ones. I felt he competed a lot better this week one-on-one. He got a lesson from Sam Day. I did enjoy the fact that he hung him out to dry for a quarter and moved him on him, because that's a good way for him to learn. But he makes himself available and he's starting to get a bit more involved, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And hanging him out to dry at that level it's the only way you're going to learn, isn't it? There are a few moments. I think there was a moment against Sam Day where he sort of got worked under the football and he probably should have punched rather than marking. And that's an area he's going to learn. He's still very raw, still very young, but he's a real leap and jump and punch type defender at the moment. I think at the moment he's at the stage of his development where I think he's just working on his defense, just purely on his defense and locking down an opponent. And we did see little glimpses of him winning the ball on the outside and using the ball via foot too. I think he only had the six or 7 touches, but it's going to be a facet of his game that he'll continue to develop. And, we know these young Sudanese boys we've seen with Giath in the AFL as well, their ability to run and carry and break away from opponents. He'll start to get that as his confidence builds. and as he understands where to position himself to win the football and to be able to rebound 50 as well. So, look, he's a mile away, obviously, but a project player nonetheless that we can keep a keen eye on.
And I am enjoying the fact as well, we got to see that pace of his as well. When that ball is spoiled, he is there. He's lightning, deceptively fast.
Yep, and you can see too his mind sort of going at 1,000,000 miles an hour at the moment too, and it's just nervous energy. I think when he goes out there, so that'll start to calm down once he gets confidence in his role, and once the coaches really start to implement, what he needs to do from a positional point of view, and when he needs to begin to rebound and start the attacking moves when we have ball in hand in our defensive half.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Keep going well, Dom. Keep going well, my friend.
Yep, absolutely.
Another guy this guy has impressed the shit out of me this year. I find it hard to believe how much he has improved, and that's Alex Murkoff. He's blagging my head how much he's like. I heard the shock in your voice with some of his deliveries.
Mate, that ball he played, I think, was it in the second quarter? Yeah, I think it was in the second quarter. There's a lace-out pass to Glass McCaskey. It was a 35 meter bullet to his chest. Like, and I had to scratch my eyes and fucking clear the binoculars for a sec there, because I go, mate, what is going on here? And I think I told you, and I told a few of the boys, Vossi and the coaches were sitting to the right-hand side of me, and I just caught a glimpse of them as he nailed the kick, and I saw Vossi just like turn to Aaron Hamilton and a few of the boys that he was with, and they were just like, oh, like, what has happened there? So his kicking has come on. I don't know where it's come from. Maybe it's Diesel. Could be Diesel Williams. I know Diesel's a big rap for him.
Oh, mate, I've got to say, I think there's so much improvement as well, just in his ruck craft as well.
Yeah,
he's
spot on.
He's really. I mentioned it last week when he went against Hawthorn, because he was playing amateurs really in the ruck.
Yeah,
but they all had AFL experience on him, and I love the fact he bullied them. He was like, "I'm the ruckman, not you," and he's really physical, and he works so hard behind the ball as well. Like, there's not many chinks in this kid's armor at the moment, and every week he seems to have got some new trick in the box.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned it too just then, his ability to get behind the ball. I think that's something that, the best ruckmen in the league are able to do. And we always harp on about how Max Gawn is so good at it. And that's the prototype for a ruckman, getting behind the ball and chopping out his teammates late in the quarter. What I really liked about Murkoff's game is that he's starting to develop football smarts. There was, again, another passage of play at a centre bounce where he knew he wasn't going to win the tap, but he realised his opponent had only eyes for the ball, and he actually stayed back. And his opposing ruckman tapped it straight to him, and he ended up winning the centre clearance. So, mate, I reckon we've got our hands on a beauty here. Seriously, mate, sky's the limit for this guy. Sky's the limit. Not yet. Not AFL yet, but, mate, there's something there.
I was watching him and thinking, if COVID attacked, heaven forbid, Peternet or TDK, and Peternet was still nursing his foot, I wouldn't anymore shit myself if Murkoff comes in.
Not at all. Not at all. Not based off what we've seen. And I think, again, like, I know it's VFL level, but his ability to cover the ground is exactly what we're looking for. And now he's starting to get away from that handball-centric nature, which is fantastic. But he's still taking the correct options. He's still looking for the handball inside. Okay, if someone can use the ball better than I can. But now he's got the confidence to hit 35-meter bullets to forwards coming at him, which is fantastic.
Some of the kicks, I've got to say, he was taking the piss at times.
Good on him. Go for it, mate. Go for it.
One thing I noticed as well is his intelligence as well, in the fact that he makes himself a nuisance when the ball hits the deck as well. There was a few times where he's getting in the way to free up Dow. And I love that from my ruckman, a guy that's like, you know what, I'm not going to influence the play, but I'm going to make it hard for you to get my boy.
Yeah, well, you become the extra midfielder and you become the blocker in there as well. And I think we know how much AFL coaches really rate like blocking and creating space for for your teammates too. And he's such a big body in there that he's going to be able to do that. So, and he's mobile as well. Like for a big boy, I think when he first come in, we thought, oh, mate, who's this lurch? Loping his way around the ground. Looks lost, mate. Looks like a little kid lost in the shopping centre. But no, mate, he looks at home on the AFL field now, which is really exciting.
Mate, it's great to see, and I agree with you. I think we've got someone there.
Yep, absolutely.
And the final guy, fan favourite, old Matt Cottrell. And I've been hard on this guy because I keep saying his ceiling's VFL, but he keeps putting in these performances, particularly that fourth quarter, where I'm like, oh my God, like maybe I'm wrong. And I'm loving what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah, look, he's again like Jack Nunes. He's taken that wing role and taken it by the scruff of the neck at VFL level, and he's pushing his case super hard, and he's using his running ability to be able to hurt opponents, going forward of centre. And we saw him, and it was the first thing I saw before the play had even gone inside forward 50 to the corner of my eye. I saw him sprinting as hard as he could to try and be that guy out the back and create the easy goal, and he did it twice. And his finishing and decision making with ball in hand has been his biggest knock. His set shot is quite neat, but decision making and ball in hand as the play is live is an area that he needs to continue to improve, and something that is probably just keeping him out of the AFL team at the moment. But I think what he's shown in the first 3 weeks has been another wingman alongside Nunes, who's bashing the door down to say, pick me. And I think Cottrell he would be more of an offensive weapon over Setterfield rather than a defensive winger. So if he is going to take a spot, it'll be O'Brien's spot, I think. But from my personal point of view, I think O'Brien is still a little bit ahead of him. But again, I mean, if we are that desperate and we need to go back down there to replace someone, he's in form and he's kicking goals and he's winning his fair share of the football too. So him and Nunes, we can't really knock them from a wing position perspective with what they've produced at VFL level this year.
Mate, Spawn, I think watching Nunes, he's definitely the Setterfield in that team. And watching Cottrell, he's definitely the O'Brien. But what I am enjoying is his energy in the final third. Like, he seems to be, you just see the ginger hair. And he just seems to be there. Every time the ball is anywhere in that final third on the left, he's there.
Yeah, and the final quarter is where you're going to see him, because it's his engine. And we see him in the preseason, 400s around Icon Park. He's always the first or second person, and he's going to run all day and he's going to be there. But I think the frustrating thing for us at AFL level is that he just hasn't been able to get his hands on the footy as much as he does at VFL level, nor find the space at AFL level that he does at VFL level. And then the decision making and use with ball in hand, it's obviously a step up when you go to AFL level, because it's such a faster game when you take the step up. But again, I think his role has been a little bit more defined this year. And I think he's obviously the clear attacking winger, because we've seen Nunes get the ball across that sort of half back line and work his way up the wing, whereas we don't see Nunes rip out and be that last man, or that first man out the back to win the ball, to kick those sort of certain goals, and to set himself up for set shots inside forward 50. The easy goals we talk about.
Mate, spot on. I think he's doing his chances no harm, and I think he could be a guy at the bye who, if O'Brien hasn't cemented his space, that will be saying, well, give me a go.
Absolutely. No reason why he can't. And, mate, all the players we've gone through, they're all in form. Like, all the players that are in positions where we think, okay, well, we're going to need a change there because it's forced, and okay, well, we might need a change here because of form. They're all playing well. That's just a sign of a club that's continually improving. Look, I know, granted, the loss against Gold Coast at AFL level was, look, it was dismal. We know that. But what I love is that if they want to make changes, they're going to be making changes for guys who are in form, that's the beauty of having a good VFL team.
Mate, I agree with you. I think if you have two performances like the Gold Coast, you'll be looking at that VFL spreadsheet Monday morning and being like,
Correct.
please don't have a good game.
Exactly. So, mate, onwards and upwards for the VFL boys. 3 from 3. Can't ask for much more. We play Richmond this week before the Port Adelaide game. So, mate, hopefully these boys can go 4 and 4. They're playing like they're going to.
Mate, it's good. Strong VFL side, and hopefully we hear you back on the commentary and we have you back on Pommy and Oz soon, mate. Thank you very much for joining me. You're a legend as always.
No worries. I appreciate it, Pommy, and keep up the good work, mate. You're doing God's work for us in the supporter base as well, mate. It's much appreciated.
Cheers, mate. And everyone, make sure you check out Jumper Punch's YouTube channel. I've got it in the description. Tuesday night, as always, on Blue Abroad, but you've got your own little side hustle as well now.
Absolutely, mate. And you'll hear my dulcet tones on the VFL call. Not this week because of Easter. I've got a few celebrations and stuff to get through with the family, but definitely next week. I think I should be calling the Werribee v Carlton game. So you'll hear me then, ladies and gentlemen.
You might see me as well. I'm going to go to that. It's just down the end of my street.
There you go. I'll see you there, mate.
All right. See you later, everyone. Thank you very much.